This meeting is being recorded.
Okay, so we start this meeting will come to order at 5:02, which is 10:02 here. Let's see, any members of the public present that we know of? Okay, and we can skip that and approve the non-existent meeting minutes. I think I said something through that my recollection was we had discussions of different building sites, possible city-owned building sites. And that was part of the discussion. And then we began a discussion about the program and a need or a desire to flesh it out with some more detail in order to see if we total square footage would fit into the 60,000 that we're asking for. I guess with the assumption that if it doesn't, we'll have to start prioritizing or looking for other sites in conjunction with other programs like a new city hall or something like that, that can do things that we might not be able to do in a 60,000 square foot building. So it was merely a suggestion that we go through an exercise of trying to put some numbers together to see where we were in relation to the 60,000 that we're asking for. And I don't know that anybody's gotten into that at all, but it's Ramona's outline really gives us all the large pieces of the puzzle, I would say, at this point. And we just need to begin to think about what those specific sizes might be to see if they fit and how they fit into a building. And also, we've been discussing this in terms of most likely being at least a two-story building, which if it has two equal floors would be divided into two 30,000 square foot floor plates. So when you're thinking about what you want to put in different places, you have to keep that in mind as well. And I think in discussion, as you guys may or may not be aware, we are working with an architect from Taipei Architects on a project for the Design Institute and Library Journal. We're going to spend a day with them, and with our architect's help, we've been working on a program to allow all of the participants in that Library Journal program, which I don't know how many there would be, but say there are several hundred. They would also work on our project, and in some, as far as we've gotten to develop a program of what we might do on that day, working with our programmatic items again, we might begin to try to fit those into our site plan. So two things came out of discussions with this architect. That number one, that a site selection process probably is in order at this point, or at least in this point of the study, it's something that we've got to begin to look at because of how it informs the discussion moving forward. Our premise working with the Design Institute is that we've already gotten to the point where we've decided we would need to build a new library on a new site. But what we're asking them for help with is how do we proceed from there? And we've told them that we've begun working on a program, that we have some potential sites, and that we have some involvement with city design processes already in progress. So the idea is that we would work with these groups. They would break down the workshop into groups, and we would, 4 of us are going, and we would work with them to work on putting our program into our building plan and working on some ideas of how and where we should site the new library. Does that sound about right, Ramona?
It does. And I actually spoke with the mayor today, and it looks like he might be able to join us in New York City. We had extended that invitation back along to him, and he's been looking at his calendar, and it may be possible, maybe not, if he can move certain things around. So that would be a really great addition to our team on the 9th. It's Thursday, June 9th. We'll be down in New York City at the Stavros Niarchos Foundation Library, which is a beautiful brand new building near the main branch of the New York Public Library. And I'm really looking forward to this thought exercise for sure. So I'm just looking at the chat here. So Andy said, yeah. Did everyone see that?
No, I did not see that.
I received that, and Andy, I did, if you want to kind of take a look through the building program, I know it's up to 20 something pages now, but there are elements of your comments in that document that are incorporated. But again, as I mentioned earlier in the chat, it is still in draft form, and there are still sections to be written and fleshed out, including so for the state library, when we get to the point of applying for Category 1 construction grant money, we do have to have a building program in place, and that building program has to include what's called area work forms. And so for the key, major areas of the library, community room and children's area and lobby, and all of those different aspects, you have to put together a work form for each of those. And we haven't gotten to that point yet, but we will.
That's what I was trying to do with that list, is sort of to move us.
Yeah. Yeah.
Andy's kind of garbled to me.
Yeah.
Can you guys?
Yeah, your microphone, I think, Andy, is staticky. It's hard to hear you.
Hey, Ramona, when you say work form, do you mean there's like a template?
Yes, there's a template from the state library, and I can see if I can find it.
Do they tell us what pieces have to be in our library?
No.
Oh,
no,
okay.
They don't say you have to have a community room and you have to have a lobby and you have to have this and that. But
for each one you list in your program, you have to flesh that out.
Yep. And that's all, that's delineated on, I'll share the link to the public library construction grant site on the state library's website. And you can kind of take a look at those guidelines. I was just reviewing them the other day.
Is my voice any clearer now?
Yes.
Yes.
I took the marbles out of my mouth.
Yeah.
Could I ask about the meeting with the Tepe Institute? I've attended some of those online in the past. So is this like an in-person where it's a big conference where there will be a lot of people, or is this your initial work meeting with Tepe?
So
no, it's a conference.
Yeah, it's a day-long symposium. There are information sessions, but there are also breakout sessions, smaller breakout sessions where architects lead the attendees in that particular session through the thought exercise of, whatever design challenge is presented. And so our library was selected as a design challenge along with other libraries from around the country. And some libraries might be just, oh, we need to do a 10,000 square foot, expansion, and what should we do, and where should we put things adjacent to which and far away from what, and blah, blah, blah. In our case, it's more of a siting, as Steve was saying, a siting exercise.
So just to that point really quickly, it doesn't appear she was able to make it tonight. I did extend an invitation to Sasha Armstrong Crockett, who's a local commercial and residential realtor. I think she would be really beneficial to the facilities committee. Just extended an invite to her tonight in the hopes that she would be able to listen in. That was, her plan. Hopefully in the future meeting, she'll be able to call in. I think her expertise, not only as a real estate professional, but also as a longtime Middletown resident and mother of 5, would be very valuable to this committee.
Yeah.
So hopefully in the future, we will all benefit from Sasha's presence and contributions. She's also, in addition to being involved in Beeman Middle School's naming committee, she's also one of the members of Middletown's racial justice task force as well. So she's very experienced in committee work in and about town.
Sounds great. Right now, we're just working on what we perceive to be city-owned sites, so we don't have an acquisition issue at this point. But yes, if we did, that would be a great handle to have on this. I think the way this will pan out is there seems to be enough city-owned material around town that we will probably end up with one of those sites if for no other reason than cost. But once again, we haven't decided where it is we want to be. So who knows, where that might end up. So
we want to be where they offer us a site. I mean, let's not kid ourselves.
Right. I mean, if the city comes up with a plan for us, we're probably going to have to go along with that. But at this point, I just wanted to make sure that amongst the sites we did know about, and if we were shoehorned somehow into the arcade project, that we came away prepared with our approach for what our quotes demands would be if we were attached to such a multifaceted development. And Ramona, you have something else to report on that as well, correct?
I'm sorry. Eamon was just texting me. Can you?
Oh, okay. Well,
he's running
Eamon,
late, obviously.
That you have been selected to be on a RFP selection committee to review the arcade proposals.
Yes. So the mayor had indicated just the other day that he would love to have a representative from the library serve on that panel. It looks like there were 5 responses to the RFQ. So they're going to be setting up those interviews in the next few weeks to get more information. And the mayor reminded us that actually last time this went out for proposals, there were only 2 responses. So it's exciting that they got more, that the city got more this time. There's also some discussion of library representation on the steering committee for the riverfront redevelopment going forward. So again, we're just continuing that conversation and making sure we have a seat at the table so that we're not on the menu, however that saying goes. But I think it's going well, and we're having some really, really good conversations.
Also, Ramona, in in discussions with Jeff Hoover of Taipei Architects, we were given some pretty good leads on other ways to approach financing. Maybe you could discuss that a little bit.
Yeah, let me find my notes on that conversation real quick, because I can't remember the name of the program. Let's see.
It's a federal program?
Yes. The new market tax credits, but that would be so that would be a developer-led process. So if we were to go, you know, with a developer to go that route, they would get tax credits, I guess, for building public space. In our case, a library or library space. And the only caveat would be, according to the notes I have here, that the developer would own the space for 7 years. The other potential very exciting funding possibility, Representative Q. Williams' office sent information out recently about community investment funds. The Community Investment Fund pot of money through the state. That's a 5-year program starting this year. It's a total of $875 million. And it is available to Alliance communities, of which, so Middletown qualifies as we're, you know, the Alliance district. But basically the idea is, you know, to fund projects, which does include construction of public libraries. I asked that specifically at the info session I attended on Zoom yesterday, in districts that have historically marginalized populations and, you know, folks who are, you know, economically disadvantaged, you know, Alliance district, et cetera, et cetera. So, you know, if you, I spoke with Brandy today about this, you know, as our grants administrator, obviously she would be intimately involved with this. You can actually apply more than once. You can apply, and what we might want to do is to apply for pre-development funds first, because we do not have a shovel-ready project yet. They do prefer shovel-ready projects, but there is money obviously for pre-development, you know, site acquisition, site, you know, feasibility studies, et cetera. So the deadline for the first round is actually July 25th. They're going to do 2 rounds per year, and they don't know exactly when the second round deadline is going to be, but maybe sometime November or December. Their board hasn't decided yet, but it's an extremely exciting possibility. And, you know, I was reading through the state of Connecticut's economic action plan, which projects that fit in with the objectives and the goals of the economic action plan obviously get priority. And I think, you know, they're talking about, you know, workforce development and, you know, equity and small business development and all of these things that libraries do, right? And so the more touch points we can hit in our application, the better. But of course, like I said, we don't yet have a shovel-ready project. We don't have a site. We don't have schematics. So I think starting with an application for pre-development funding is probably the way to go. And then, you know, with the implication, and we can be very honest about it, saying we're going to come back to you for infrastructure funding once we, you know, once we have a project design in place. But a lot of work has to go into that in the meantime. So
yeah, that's what I want this committee to focus on. Once we grab these funding possibilities, let's get them all on our plate, see who's going to do what the timetables are, so that we can get this done as quickly as possible while checking all the boxes. So we've got now 2 pre-development funding possibilities. This one you were just talking about in the state library also has some funds available. So we should be going after both of those, because our next steps require us to do some work on site selection and some schematics in order to be able to step up to the next round. So that's my recommendation, that the first two things we go after is pre-development funding. So we got some money to work with here. And then it's clear that we've got to get on board with our scheduling for these major grant possibilities, both with the state library, the state itself, and these other programs. So that we know where we're heading once we hire somebody to work with us to develop schematics, and knowing what their programmatic predilections are so that we can aim our work towards what is most likely to get us an award. My only other question for you, sorry to be hogging all the time here, but is, do you know that what the grant limits are for each of those programs?
Well, the first one, I don't know much about the
developer.
The developer
credits.
one, I don't know much about that particular one, but in terms of the community investment funds, the minimum request is $250,000. There's no maximum. And the amount that the maximum amount they're dispersing this first half year session is $75 million. And I believe it's 100 million for the second half of the year. It's because it's a total of 175 million the first of 5 years. And total for the 5-year program is $875 million.
Who administers?
It's not a small amount of money. It's DECD. And I put I threw the link in the chat to the Community Investment Fund website, so you can take a look at that.
All right, well, that's exciting news on a lot of levels. Yes, Andy.
How could we put together a pre-development budget? I mean, seems to me we're going to need for any of these programs.
Yeah.
Right. Yep.
Yeah, I need to know, like, that's, as we go through and we write this grant application, that's a big blank space that we need to fill in.
Yeah, I would talk to Jeff a little bit about this and maybe go back to HMA2 to see what they have done for schematic packages, but that's kind of what we're looking for now, and probably would be in our case somewhere in the $100,000 range.
Yeah,
my guess.
I don't think we have to invent the wheel. I mean, everybody else who's ever done this has sort of a checklist, and some of them will apply and some of them won't apply, and we'll plug in numbers. I just don't know where to go for it. We need an architect.
Well,
Where can we find an architect to help us out here? That was a joke. Sorry.
Yes.
Is there an architect?
Well,
oh wait, there is.
Sorry. That's why I mentioned if we know what these programs are after, we can highlight those in our programs that go into the architect working on the schematics. We have to come up with a program in order to get an architect started on schematics. They don't have to be detailed, but they do have to be as specific as we can be, because the first thing he will do, or she will do, is start asking questions, and we need to be prepared to begin to answer those questions. I think we're pretty close to ready for that. We just need the money, so we should be applying for it like yesterday.
I think Eamon's got his hand up, Steve.
Yes,
Oh, I
Steve.
Oh, there you are.
Yes. Sorry, gang. I arrived late. I have to leave early. I would say I want to show my face, but my face isn't always pleasant to look at. So, sorry to everyone. But anyway, so a few things. One, I want to make sure that everyone in this group, again, this might have been discussed, and I apologize again. We are, by we, I mean Steve, Ramona, Brandy, and I will be attending the Library Design Institute convention, I guess, if you will, in New York City next Thursday. Yes, Andy.
We discussed it. Move on.
Oh, you did? Okay. Well, did you discuss this? I would encourage anyone here, any of the members of this committee who would like to attend. It should be a great event. Should be, so I would encourage. I don't know if you discussed that, but I think at least as of now that they reimbursed us the cost for the existing group to go, so we could just use the same. I don't know if they would charge us for more people or what, but if you can. Yes, Ramona.
I just went to the website and it says registration's closed. So I hope, because I was saying earlier that the mayor was going to try to go. So I hope he registered today if he wants to go.
Okay.
Well, if he doesn't, he can take my place. So we make sure he goes.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I guess, but don't let, I would say for anyone else in this group, don't let the reservation being closed. Let them tell us no instead of let's not, maybe, if you're interested in, if you can make it. I know, it's not terribly convenient on a Thursday, all day in New York City. So, so that's the first thing I was going to say. The other, and I actually, frankly, I forgot what the other thing was. So sorry, it's been a long day.
Ramona, can you still attend online?
I'm not sure. Is it hybrid?
I don't think so, but I'm not sure.
I thought it was, but maybe it isn't.
I don't think it is. There was no, when I registered, there was no option to try and, yeah. I texted the mayor about it this morning, and as of this morning, it was still, the registration was still open, and I haven't heard back from him. He probably had the same kind of meeting full day that I had. So we'll see. I'll text him again.
Yeah, well, like I say, I am perfectly willing to give up my seat so he can go. I'd rather have him on the train with you guys being indoctrinated the whole time.
I kind of think for conferences, there's a wiggle room in terms of getting in. If you said the mayor was coming, they'd probably say,
right.
Great.
Right. There's got to be a number we can call, right? Or an email. So.
Anyway, it's encouraging that he's at least even responding and thinking about an invitation that we sent him about these things. Of course, as a politician, I can also see that it would be score him some points to get some exposure. Okay, let's see. We've talked about, I guess we've already gotten ourselves through building sites, program we've talked about, financing we've talked about, the scheduling we've kind of touched on.
Steve, if I can just interrupt, I just remember what my second thing was. Have we told Henry? Do we know if Henry's going to be attending the Design Institute, or have we told them that it might be too late if registrations? Oh, he is attending the Design Institute conference.
Yeah, Henry Meyerberg is one of the architects that's leading a breakout session, not ours. Yeah, so Henry.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we should maybe just to make sure. I would suggest that maybe if we want to maintain a relationship with him, that we let him know that he's not surprised that we're there because.
Oh no, he knows. He knows.
Okay.
There. Oh yeah, no. He knows, and he knows that Jeff Hoover is running our breakout session, and no, it's totally fine. In fact, I had asked Henry if he could just work with us briefly this summer, putting together our proposal for the Category 2 State Library Construction Grant for the lobby, ADA, restroom improvements, et cetera. And if he and Maxine could, and they both said yes. And I think they're both, I think even Maxine is going to be in the city that day. So we're trying to meet up and just touch base. So yes.
All right, excellent. Thank you.
A whirlwind day. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this is the library design community is pretty incestuous, so they all know what everybody's doing.
Yeah. Yeah, it really is.
Yeah. Okay. So, did you want to speak any more about the lobby, Ramona, or is that really?
That's pretty much my update. I am going to be convening staff members to get, the design ideas along with Henry and Maxine. Henry as an architect, Maxine is sort of a de facto library building consultant. Obviously there are some engineering aspects that need to be addressed and put in there. For instance, the restrooms, those are not something that librarians can necessarily design. There's code to comply with, et cetera. So we'll need Henry's help and possibly AP construction or legacy engineering. But it should, okay.
Eamon's got to
Bye, Eamon.
pick up his kids.
So I will be convening those meetings. The challenge is we're in summertime now. We're in full summer reading mode. We're in full summer vacation mode for a lot of folks. And so getting people's input is, it's a little bit more complicated because you can't just have one sit down meeting and everybody kind of gives their input. You'll have multiple people out. So we'll just, we'll be nimble and we'll get the input. And otherwise, I will need to, and I have this on my list for the full board meeting, but I'll just need to get a copy of the minutes of the June board meeting with a vote of approval for me to apply for the grant. That is something that the state library requires as part of the application. And so I have that on my list of things to go over with Eamon when we put together the June board agenda. And similarly, permission to apply for the Community Investment Fund grant for the pre-development costs. So we'll want to have that. Otherwise, timeline, it's going to be a tight timeline. It always seems like September 1st is so far away and June hits and suddenly it's September again. So it'll be fun. Yeah.
Yeah, if there was a way, Ramona, to at least put this into some kind of a matrix for us to understand what we're up against here. I know it's all sort of in your head and in your staff, but for most of us, it's still pretty bewildering. So anything cryptic that we could get from you would be great.
The matrix in my head is pretty terrifying. So I will try to put that in some sort of visual form for folks.
Okay. Let's see. Yeah, that's the project narrative. Any other new business?
Do you need anything from us, Ramona? I mean, I know you and Brandy are working hard on text and gotten some, things from people, but what else do you need from us?
Well, I mean, aside from, the vote from the board for permission to apply for these grants, and certification of application, obviously, as board members, you are also community members, and I've gotten your feedback, and I hope I continue to get your feedback on the building program and building elements that need to go into that. But also, short term with the lobby project, if there are elements of the lobby project you feel really are critical, program elements that need to be included in that when we put together the schematic design. By all means, even if it's just, not necessarily, form and function, but feel, right? The application that we put into the ARPA task force mentioned that we really want to make the lobby a kind of a town square feel. We want it to be bustling, and we want it to be where people meet, and we want it to feel welcoming and comfortable. And, what does that look like in terms of, paint colors and flooring and furniture and lighting, all sorts of, things related to that, but also if there are things that you feel should be featured in the lobby when you come in that aren't now, or items related to the restroom situation or anything like that. I would love to have board members. I always love to have board members input. Yeah, we're on a very compressed timeline at this point. So yay. Yeah.
It was interesting that Jeff Hoover from Tepe did a quick analysis of our work so far before we had our first meeting. And he brought a new concept in that opened my eyes to other possibilities. And that was that the library should have, as well as all the sense of comfort and home that you've been talking about, he said that the concept of belonging, it was someplace that you felt you belonged in or came from. In discussions about possible sites, it sort of comes back around to, is the current site of the library somewhere that we come back to as a possibility? Maybe doing something as drastic as knocking everything down except what must stay by our charter, and trying to build a correct library on that site just because of the sense of belonging that is accrued to the building over 150 years of service. But that's kind of a long shot, but it occurred to me once he developed or once he brought that concept to light. So no matter where we go, that should be added to our lists of attributes that we can somehow develop a sense of belonging. Okay, is there any, and first of all, are there any questions about anything so far?
I just want to say one thing, Steve. The current site, the one thing that's lacking there that we cannot provide is this parking. I think get 60,000 square feet there and keep the church, but I just don't see how we ever get the parking. And we've talked about it.
I don't either. I thoroughly agree. There's city parking, there's garage parking, but I think it's committed overcommitted. I don't know how first of all, we can't explain how it works now. Right? I mean, we don't know how we work as well as we do now without parking. So I guess it's the one big thing that you cannot attach to the site that we have. So yeah, I think that pretty much scotches it, but if somebody could come up with a way around that, it would be an attractive rebuild site. Okay, any need for executive session that anybody has a sense for? Seeing none, I don't think we need to do that. Once again, any more questions? Our next meeting is not until September, so I think homework involved is we will probably report back to you, sure, on the results of our New York trip, and that will help inform information about sites and program and so forth. But those are the things that keep thinking about. Yes, Andy?
Will you go to the zoo while you're there? It's a great zoo.
Yeah.
I don't
It
know.
is,
I think we've got a packed schedule that day, but you
No,
know.
no, no. I meant in London.
Oh,
well,
No, not the Bronx.
yes, it's still on the realm of possibilities. We're going to do the river
Yeah.
trip tomorrow, hopefully, depending on the weather and how many crowds the Queen is. It's 4 days here. Tomorrow is another one of the holidays involved with her celebration, and the crowds on the different tours have been immense. So we'll see what happens there. But we will bring some nice photographs back. Some libraries in those too. There's some pretty neat buildings here. All right, guys. I guess we're have a vote to adjourn. All those in favor, say aye. Okay. Okay.